My name is Nir, also known as the Mad Hatter, also sometimes known as Flipper Frank. I am a YouTuber, I am a toy reviewer, and now I am a toy maker. It's an interesting road going from YouTuber to toy maker, and I'm still a YouTuber. I feel like I'm always going to be a YouTuber, but so if you watch the Mad Hatter channel for the last few years, there's a character that I do on the channel called Flipper Frank. I think it was like the first year in where I put on a hoodie, I put on my wife's sunglasses, and I did this character called Flipper Frank that people just really like. Kind of hard to pick the accent where he's at. Some people say Southern. I had a few people say, is he from Boston? But it would be like a running gag of a flipper. There was a little bit of like Andy Kaufman type of stuff where I would make these videos to purposely antagonize, but really it was from the perspective of like how your most greediest flipper would behave. We even did things where, as Flipper Frank, I would do toy reviews. Instead of reviewing what's good about the toy, I would review how much money you would get. And a lot of people got the joke. Some people thought it was real, and they would be like, "Go f yourself, Flipper." But this was kind of like a running gag for a long time, this Flipper Frank character. Then I would make these purchase videos, and basically what those are is in real time, I would film myself trying to purchase something online, especially if it was something that I knew was going to sell out. And those videos became popular because you would go along with the ride. Like, okay, it's 9:59 a.m. At 10 a.m. NECA is going to drop whatever Ninja Turtle. I'm going to purchase it in real time, and I would either purchase it and it'd be like, yay, this is coming, and I locked it down, or I would fall into like a fit of fury because I couldn't get what I wanted to get. And those videos were fun. I haven't done one in a while, but they were fun videos, copied by a few other YouTubers, by the way. By the way, a lot of copycats that don't acknowledge where the copying is coming from. That's a whole other thing. But we did those purchase videos for the longest time. And I remember Master of the Universe was coming out with a Wondar figure. If you know Motu, Wondar is kind of like, it's like one of these like zeitgeist figures. And I don't know whether it was something about thinking about Masters of the Universe and thinking about toys. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if there was a flipper character that kind of lived in like sword and sorcery fantasy kind of setting, but flip toys in that setting, you know? I was like, that could be funny because I kind of have an art background. I put together a drawing. The next day, I did my purchase video trying to get the Wondar, and it sold out, and I did not get it, and I flew into a fury, but it was all tempered with, I knew this was gonna happen, and because of that, I came up with this character yesterday, and then I showed it on camera, and I introduced Flipor to the world, Flip-or, Flipor, and I went over the whole thing, like how he works. He's got a flipper arm that looks like it's something from Highlight, and you can just flip into his bag. He's got a dial that tells you how much money he's made. He looks like Flipper Frank. He kind of had he has the sunglasses and he had the hood and this and that, but he was like a fantasy version of that. And a lot of people were just like laughing their asses off in the comments, and for the longest time people were like, you should make Flipor, make a Flipor, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And you know, you hear that and you're just like, yeah, whatever, you know, like, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But like, as the years went by, something started to happen where I would get that note all the time. I would get, you should make a Flipor. If you make a Flipor, I'll purchase it, or I'll buy one, and this and that. And I was like, you know what, maybe I do make it. You know what I mean? Like, I knew at that point enough customizers that I was like, what if I made like 100 Flipors, and I went to a convention, you know, like just like I get like a small table, and I just sold like the Flipors. I would even at booths mention when I interviewed people that Flipor might be coming, with no rhyme or reason and nothing on deck. I remember I did an interview with Sam Roberts in the Mattel booth, and we were talking about the wrestling figures, and I was like, have you heard of Flipor? Flipor is going to be, and he's like, flip. But I was just like, you know what? I am going to just will this into existence. And so that's what I just started talking about him. And then I don't know, the universe has a strange way of working, because as those years went by, I got contacted from people like my partner in crime, Mega J Retro, who runs another YouTube channel, and he's like, I think Flipboard could be something that's made. Then we got contacted through another partner, Geek Dad Life. He does a weekly podcast. A render artist, Ryan, Renders Effects, sent him a render. He just did it on his own. He's like, I'm very inspired by this character. What do you think about this? And he came on board. Gilly from Gilly Writes Comics, Mr. Home Arcade, all these other guys just came through. Ralph from Toy Stalker was like, hey, if you can make this, you know, I'd be happy to help with the shipping. And then finally, the biggest piece was Ace from Ramen Toys. He basically was like, hey, you know what? I think that this Flipboard could be a thing. If you can raise the money, I would be happy to kind of produce it for you. Not officially under Ramen Toys, but as a hired gun producer, I think it has something. And then after that, we're like, you know what? If we have the pieces, we have the design, I'd be happy to get to work on a Kickstarter and get to work on some pieces. And then we kind of put together this sort of like Fellowship of the Flipped Ring. We're like, we all love toys. It's always been my dream to make a toy. I mean, if you're a designer and a toy collector, you want to make a toy. I mean, even if you're not a designer, every toy collector wants to make something. So yeah, that was kind of like the genesis. That's my long Lord of the Rings explanation of how we got to Mordor, which we're at right now. There's a lot to making an action figure. I don't want to say that I didn't know going in, because if you've been collecting action figures for a while, you know that there is a process that goes from design to render to sculpt to, you know, getting in hand to samples, painted samples and things like that. But seeing it and being part of that process and seeing it from the outside and seeing it from the inside is very, very different. There's a lot of Kickstarters that they, and I'm talking about action figure Kickstarters, that they begin and they have renders, they have art renders. And if you don't know, a render is basically like a design of the action figure. We had a full figure in hand. In fact, I did a review on a prototype before we even started the Kickstarter, which I think also helped us because it showed people that we were taking it seriously. The process with Ace has been very interesting, and with Ryan, who was our sculptor who had passed away before we got to release our figure. But the way it did begin is Ryan was really the first point. He was the first point of like, this can be a real thing, because he, as a render artist, took the design, the 2D design I did, and basically created a fully rotatable render, top to bottom, or at least a first pass. Once Ace got involved, then you really started to see how the business of this happens, because Ace would kind of like respectfully poke holes in things that we need to do in the sculpt. Like, there are things that might not stand up in production. There are things that might be a little flimsy. He has a great eye for like, this looks good, but is it going to stand on a shelf, and is it going to crack in half once you get it in hand? The other challenge was we wanted a mechanism in this figure. I basically said, if we're going to do Flipboard, he's got to have a flippable arm. I mean, that's, if any figure has an arm that can flip a toy, it's got to be Flipboard. So that was one thing that was, I had demanded, and trust me, there were a lot of people saying, dude, just come out with the figure. Okay, that's a little too pie in the sky, but I was like, no, we gotta like go for it. And to Ace's credit, he was like, no, if we're gonna do a figure of a toy flipper, he better fucking flip his arm. The Kickstarter was its own wild experience. It is a roller coaster ride. I will recommend anybody doing a Kickstarter, be prepared for it, and then whatever you prepare for, understand that it's going to be even more stressful than that. We decided that if we're going to make a Kickstarter, we're not just going to create a page and then say, see you later. We are going to make it fun. And again, I don't think we were the only ones that invented this, but we kept on trying to reveal new things that Flipboard would come with. We created like a fake 80s type commercial with like a dad and a kid, and we wrote a script for it. I sang a song as my alter ego Flipper Frank. We did everything. We basically were like, this is gonna be a pass or fail. We're either gonna make $5,000 or we're gonna make our goal, okay? Not that $5,000 is anything to sneeze at, but the Kickstarter was very stressful. There were lessons learned, but I think looking back, we did a lot of creative stuff. Like one of the things we did on Kickstarter is if you funded it in the first 10 days, you got 2 middle fingers. It was just a wild time, and the end was the craziest because it ended on April 1st, which is very apropos for a figure like this, and it ended at it was like 8 in the morning, and I was on a live stream with Mega J, my partner, and Ace, my other partner, and we had guests coming in and out, and it was like a telethon. It was like a drunken, insane, drug-fueled telethon where we were just throwing everything out there. And I was high off my own supply. I was completely crazy. I just kept on adding new, literally adding things on the spot that come with the figure, by the way. Okay, that wasn't like where we were we kind of sidebarred and we're like, let's add some things. In the moment saying, Ace, can we afford to have this in? And he, in the moment, was like, that we can, that we can't. And we're like, okay, the thing we can, let's put it in there. It was wild. It was an insane time. And if you watch the video, we're all wired and the numbers just kept on ticking up. And I think we ended at 200 and something. And it was crazy. It was its own beast. It was a fun time doing that Kickstarter. And I think a lot of people, we still get a lot of people giving us accolades about the figure is cool, but I had a lot of fun with the Kickstarter itself. So yeah. How did it feel to have the figure in my hand? I mean, the only other best feeling I've had is when my daughter was born. And so it was up there, okay? I know to a lot of people it was like, this is a running gag. But to me, it was special because it was something that was created. Anytime you create something, even if it's like a gag or even if it's a joke, the person that created it would be lying if they said that it wasn't special. And if you are a toy collector, to have something go from design and to have it go through all these iterations and the frustration and the arguments, and I'm not saying they were all arguments, but there was a lot. It's like an EKG, the ups and downs and the sweat equity and just to feel all that. When you get it in hand, all of that just goes away because you're like, you know what? At the end of the day, I made this thing, and I can always say that I made it. It was surreal. It was like a surreal moment. I started laughing. I have people always trash me on the channel because I laugh like the Joker. I have a maniacal laugh. I remember when I held this thing, I started cracking up, almost like a madman. I was like, I can't believe that this joke got this far, that this is a piece of plastic I'm holding, and that 1,500 plus backers are going to be holding this figure. And so it was wild. It was just wild to get there. And it's just one of those, I can check this off of the, I've always wanted to make some figure. I never thought it would be this, I'll be honest. I've had comic characters that I've created. When I worked at Disney, I created a story that we got to make a pilot out of it, but it didn't get to air. So I've always had dreams of okay, something you designed, but if you would have asked me, if you would have told college me, this is the thing that gets made as a figure, I'd be like, you're crazy, and who would buy this? Some people would buy it, I guess, and I would definitely buy it. So yes, it was surreal. Current status of Flipboard and the future. Okay, the future of Flipboard. Well, current status is Flipboard is at the tail end of production. We were looking to get it into people's hands by March. I think now it's going to be April because we had a few things with our blister card that we wanted to get right, which delayed us. And then there's a Chinese New Year, which is something you find out about too when you're creating figures, is holidays are not the same, you know what I mean? You got to kind of abide. And so that it gives us a little bit of a delay, but if it gets into people's hands by April, I'll be real happy because the goal, the figure funded on April. We have something to prove. I'm not knocking other Kickstarters, but there are Kickstarters that, years, you're just kind of waiting for it. And we really want to show people that we're serious about this. We're serious about the quality. And this has been kind of like a second job for a lot of us, okay? I mean, lots of time devoted. So I would love if that kind of came in on time. But yeah, we're looking at April to get into people's hands, both internationally and stateside. And in terms of the future of Flipboard, we've had a lot of discussions. There is a lot of stuff to mine in an action figure line that is kind of self-aware of itself. If Masters of the Universe is its own thing, the Champions and the Faraday is kind of like the Tick version of things like that. A lot of kind of inside joke characters, and there's a lot to mine. And I would love if we could do a Wave 2 I'd say I would love if we could do it, because it will depend on the support of everybody. You know what I mean? Like, if you like this world, I think the comic book is a riot. I think once people read that, they're gonna flip over it. And by the way, those mini comics are gonna come with every figure. But I really can't wait to show people what we're planning on Wave 2. So the answer is yes, we are planning a Wave 2 in the Flipboard and the Champions of Neferity. One of the characters that we kind of announced a few times is Flipboard's Old Flame Evil Bae, B-A-E, who used to be his Bae, but now she's the Evil Bae, and she kind of represents the evil old auction. You kind of get where we're going. It's a lot of like things that I think other toy collectors would find funny, that has to do with not just its own world, but the collecting of toys, things like eBay, things like Target, things like Walmart. Of course, we would never use those names because we don't own them, and I would never try to make figures of something I didn't own. But you might get some familiarity as you see these. So I will say we have a vehicle that we would love to make. It's not a big vehicle, but I think it would be a lot of fun. If you've ever shopped for anything at a department store, you can probably guess what this vehicle is. But we have plans, but again, it will depend fully on the community, and seeing how far we can take it, because we love this property. It is something that started as a joke. Doesn't mean it has to remain a joke. I mean, it'll always be a joke, but we take the creation of it deathly serious. So yeah. We do have a limited stock of Flipboard. You can go to Toy Stalker. You can get them there. And you can also get, I believe that BBTS, Big Bad Toy Store, also has a limited stock. Nerdzoic has a limited stock. And I keep saying limited stock because I know how limited it is. It's pretty fucking limited because we only made a certain amount, and I really have no interest in making this figure again in this incarnation. It's not to say that there won't be like maybe a different sculpted type Flipboard down the line, or he has some kind of like, different tooling or something that is funny enough to warrant another figure. I don't have any interest of let's do another run of this particular Flipboard. So once it's done, it's done. I will say, without sharing numbers, there's not a lot of them in the world. So if you do want them, you can go get them at those places, or you can go to eBay. Part of my dream too is I kept on saying this. I was like, I'll know that I have achieved exactly what I want is when Flipboards start landing on eBay, because then it's come full circle. An action figure of a flipper who flipped on eBay is now on eBay as a flipper figure. That's when we get completely meta, and I just call it a day. So you can get them for the reasonable price now on retailers, but a year from now, look to pay thousands of dollars. I mean, people are going to be mortgaging their houses to get this figure, okay? Mark my words. So yeah. All right, before we end this, I got something to say, because I'm actually Flipper Frank. I'm the one that inspired this whole fucking thing with the Flipboard and all that. I got it in my hand. Number one, they didn't ask me anything about likeness rights. So they made this figure unsanctioned, okay? They said they're gonna send me one, and that's payment? No, I don't think so. If people are gonna be making money, I saw how much money that Kickstarter made, $200,000. By my math, I should get at least half of that, all right? So if you support this Flipboard figure, you are supporting theft, all right? You are supporting theft of my face, because my face is this guy's face right here. If you participate in the buying of this action figure, you are now liable. Class action lawsuit, okay? Because I'm gonna get paid. That's why they call me Flipper Frank. Flipper Frank always gets his money, okay?